Ready to see something I'll never done and I'll probably never do ever again? Keep watching.
I know some professors who refuse to teach on this. I'm biased, but I'm fair.
It's never going to cease to amaze me that people don't see through the lies and the grift and the bigotry and the hate of these pro-Trump pastors. Like Joe Webbon.
First of all, right there, there should not be pastors speaking from the pulpit, endorsing or decrying Trump. Either way, politics should not just because of the separation of church and state, but religion, Christianity, being a pastor is about far much more than what party you endorse, what candidate you endorse.
Webbon.
So already not off to a great start.
And since we're going to talk about Joel today, he would have you believe that what a coincidence it is that everybody he hates, everybody he fears, all groups that he believes are subservient to the white, straight male, that they just so happen to be the same people that his God hates.
First of all, I'd already start to have a little bit of suspicion that that this guy is literally, I mean, I've seen another video of this guy's, and the guy, first of all, I don't know this guy, whoever this Dollemore guy is. I don't know this other guy, Joel Webbon, whoever he is. I've never heard of either one of these guys. This video was just recommended to me. So he's not speaking from the pulpit. He's speaking from a podcast set. But is he really out there? I wonder, this guy, let's just hear it again. All these things that he hates.
It is that everybody he hates.
First of all, this guy, Joel, the other guy, this guy, who is he? Jesse Dollemore. So the other guy's Joel, this guy's Jesse. Does Joel really sit there and say, I hate X, Y, and Z? I mean, maybe he does, but more likely, probably he doesn't, because people like this guy, Jesse, are just assuming, I mean, anything that they disagree with, this guy, Jesse, is going to call it hate. Hate this, hate that, something like homophobia. It's hate, it's anti-LGBT hate, right? So already we're not up to a great start, but let's keep going. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I want to hear what he says.
Everybody he fears, all groups that he believes are subservient to the white, straight male, that they just so happen to be the same people that his God hates, that his God is terrified of.
I really doubt that his God is terrified of anybody, no matter. I mean, look at his smirk on his face. This guy Joel, who's a pastor, this guy Jesse, I watched one other video by him. He mentions briefly that he used to be in that religion, whether that religion means that he was Christian before and he's not now, or whether he was evangelical before and he's not now. I don't know. But any God, any religion, any like coherent theology, you're not going to have a God that is afraid of anybody, right? God that is omnipotent, powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, and omnipresent everywhere, and then omnibenevolent, all good. Such a God is not going to be afraid of anything. In fact, in classical theology, classical theism, you have a God that is impassible, which means that he can't, and nothing can affect him, nothing can change him, because he is the thing that affects and changes everything else. So this is just already bad theology, but you can see by the smirk on his face. I don't know if he takes himself seriously. He's just kind of taking pot shots here.
It's just so bizarre to me. And I have two clips for you here that is going to demonstrate exactly how pernicious this flavor of Christianity is. This white Christian nationalist nonsense that casts Muslims as evil and Hindus as evil and Jews as not only evil, but also unqualified for public office. They should not serve because of their religion, because they're not Christians, which is newer than Judaism. It's not only newer than.
So this is the chart that it was actually my dad who recommended this video. Shout out to my dad. Love you. He wanted me to see this, and he found it really fascinating. Let me just take a quick look at this. You've got, of course, Judaism, which precedes Christianity. and the Christianity which precedes Islam. That's absolutely right. Nothing wrong with that. But it's always in the details. So Torah establishes Jewish religion. Maybe Jewish, okay, in a formalized way, yes. I suppose that one could argue from a religious studies standpoint that prior to the Torah being written down, which is after Moses, which originally Torah is the first five books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. Numbers and Deuteronomy, out of order. Historically, traditionally, it was said that Moses had been the author of all five books, but that's been impossible because it actually chronicles Moses' own death. So he wasn't the author entirely of all five books, but that's neither here nor there. Perhaps he wrote most of them and then, it was left off and somebody else completed them or something. But all that to say that the Torah, the law, also known as the law, because you get a lot of the law there, the Leviticus and Numbers, Deuteronomy, and so on. Even Exodus, you get a lot of the law given, the covenant, the Mosaic covenant, the covenant made with Moses. You get the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20 on Mount Sinai. So really, I suppose one could argue that it was formalized then in terms of, very formal and codified religion. So I'm in some sense okay with this, but I'm also really skeptical because this sort of insinuates that maybe Judaism didn't exist, or maybe perhaps people did. Let's say maybe people didn't worship God before them. And if you want to claim that, that's just simply false. Israel enters recorded history with pantheon of gods. So this right here is religious studies nonsense, honestly. And you will get people that swallow this fable, this myth, and uncritically, they think that Israel, the Jews, worshipped many gods. And so that part is in some sense true. Did Israel worship false gods? Yeah. Did they worship idols? Yes. Does it mean that those were rivals to God in some sort of polytheistic manner, like the Greek pantheon of gods? No, not at all. Because even in the Old Testament, they say, they always refer to Jehovah as the one true God, the one living God. So there was always this distinction between the actual true God and all these fake gods that Israel sort of made up, whether it be the God of grain or the God of rain or the God of sun or what have you, or the God of navigation. All these were just sort of invented. The one true God, Jehovah, was, as they understood, the only real true God. Well, why follow these things if you don't think that they're real true gods? Well, same thing can be asked of us. Why do we pursue fame? Why do we pursue money? Why do we pursue pleasure? Even though obviously we know that these aren't gods, they aren't all-powerful, all-knowing, and omnipresent, and so on. They can't provide us heaven and paradise. They can't forgive us of our sins, but they certainly sure do feel good, don't they? And so that's why we pursue them. So it's just that the ancient mind, peoples like the Israelites, they would construe these things as gods. And looking back in hindsight, I think we would too. These things are idols. Just like if we were very sober and, really we're honest with ourselves, we would think of our own things that we pursue nowadays are also idols. They're not true gods, obviously. So, but I want to hear what he says. Those are the things I've noticed so far. But let's see what he has to say about this chart.
Judaism. Protestantism is brand new on the scene relative to Christianity itself. I mean,
so let's go back to this chart. I like this chart too. I like it because it shows the branching of the churches. Let's take a little bit of commentary here. The early Christian church, the Great Schism, Council of Ephesus. You've left the councils out of these. I suppose that these are just councils that split into new churches. I see what he's doing. So I don't know where he doesn't cite any source for these charts. So the early Christian church obviously began around he has on this other church 4. Okay, that's the birth of Christ. That's correct. And that may surprise some people. He was born in 4 BC. Even my son, who's 11, he has a hard time with this. I thought Jesus was born in 0. That's why it's after, it's before Christ, right? BC is before Christ. No, first of all, there is no 0 year. There is 1 BC and then 1 AD, because you can't have a year 0. And the reason for this difference, 4 BC, why would he be born? Why would he not be born in, say, 1 AD or 1 BC? You can blame Pope Gregory the First for this. With the Gregorian calendar, he used astronomy and dating and history and his histories from ancient authors to trace down what was the actual birth date of Christ. And he got rather close. He was actually establishing a new calendar, the Gregorian calendar. We don't use this calendar that much anymore. And a recent calendar change, I think, happened in like the late 1700s or early 1800s, I believe. That's why you have kind of like anytime you see a date in that range that's actually in a real history book, there'll be a slash in between it because it'll be this date or that date. It's very interesting. Most people won't know that. But at this time, we were introduced to a new calendar. Turned out that calendar had placed Christ's birth at like 1 AD, or AD actually means not after death. It means Anno Domini, which means the year of our Lord. So the year of our Lord 1 was thought to be the year that Jesus was born on the Gregorian calendar. Turns out that was just off for about, 4 or 5 years. So pretty good so far. Pretty good by standards of ancient historians and science. But right here, let's see. So you have the beginning of Christianity, early Christian church. He doesn't have a date over here, but it begins in the 1st century AD. And then you have several councils before then, Council of Nicaea, Council several. So you've got Council of Ephesus, 431, 451, Council of Chalcedon. So you do have Oriental Orthodox and Nestorian churches. Nestorianism was considered to be a heresy. So this is like putting Mormonism up here. Notice that Mormonism is not up here because Mormonism is considered a heresy and a cult. So Nestorianism was likewise considered a heresy. So that would not be on your typical chart. I don't know where he's getting this again. The Oriental Orthodox, and then later on the Eastern Orthodox, which is a little bit. So Oriental means Orient, means East. And then Eastern Orthodox means also East. So just a little bit typical. This asterisk here is important. Actually the double asterisk is important as well. So both Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches claim the title of the one true church. But right here is the interesting one. There are several other autonomous and autocephalous churches within Eastern Orthodoxy. Most of us know of Russian Orthodox or Greek Orthodox, or just call it Eastern Orthodox in general. But autonomous, we know what that means. You have ruling to yourself, but autocephalous. Also, autocephalous means that you are the self-head, self-leader, cephalous. This word means head. You rule through your own head. You don't have to go to Rome for that. So there's a big, big difference here. Eastern Rite, Western Rite. Okay. I don't know what 22 and 1 mean. Maybe that's the source that you pull these from. And then, of course, you have Via Media. This means the middle path, renewal movements that try to go back to through charismatic. I don't know how successful these renewal movements are, because the charismatic church, Pentecostals, most Protestant churches, Anglicanism is different, but like I said, these three really, and a lot more like them, like Baptists and so on, are known as what's called Congregationalist governed churches. That means that they really have no head. They are more democratic. They don't have a bishop, certainly not a pope, that they are considered low church as opposed to high church liturgy. With Anglicanism, Catholic, Orthodox, and so on, you have what are called high church liturgy. You have the Eucharist, you have you have incense right there, you have the ringing of the bells, you have the procession of the cross inward and outward. It's very regulated, very formalized, but in these churches you don't. So that's why I say this renewal movement is probably unlikely to I mean, you don't hear, let's say, of charismatic churches. You do hear of Catholic charismatics or charismatic Catholics, whichever way you want to write that. But they are Catholic first, and then they have charismatic elements. Charisma just means of the Spirit, or actually it means a gift. Charism means a gift. So but what gift? It means the gift of the Spirit. Usually, that's why they call themselves charismatic, because they have the gift of the Spirit that sort of moves and talks. And charismatic churches are things like Assemblies of God churches, so they typically speak in tongues, that sort of thing, right? So they have the movement of the Spirit and speak in tongues. You do have some Catholics. I'm not sure. I can't say much about this because I don't know with Orthodox, but you do have some Catholics that are charismatic. But again, they are Catholic first. They have the entire High Liturgy, the full Church of the Catholicism, and then you have some elements brought in. So these are not. It seems backwards. Again, it's hard to know just with an arrow being drawn what's being said here. But at first, I thought it meant charismatic movements from the 1960s tried to go back to this or tried to go back. I think it was the other way around. I think that you had Catholics that were sort of intrigued by what was going on with the movement of the Spirit.
Relative to Christianity itself. I mean, he thinks that he has a lock on what Christianity is and what the interpretation of his particular one of thousands of different interpretations of the Bible, that his is the right one. He happened to be born in the United States where Christianity is the dominant religion, or used to be. He just had, what a lucky thing for Joel Webbon. And in this clip, he's going to say,
go look that up. It's still its dominant religion.
For us and our posterity. Us meaning white, straight Christian men. And
so I know that sounds offensive, but here's the truth. If you look at the legacy, the inheritance, the foundation of the country for an actual identity, let's say, in other countries like Italy, they have an identity. They're Italians. And yes, prior to Italy being a unified, now I think they have a democracy of some sort. Prior to that, they were a kingdom, a unified kingdom with a king. And I think that happened in the late 1800s, right, prior to the couple world wars, of course. But prior to that, they were just a vast majority of papal states and kingdoms. They were disunified. There's no unity whatsoever. So yes, of course, and this is why they have sort of this territorialism and this regionalism, much like you'd find in other parts of the world. Like if you go to California, Southern California, I used to live in Southern California, in the Los Angeles County. And you don't just say you're from LA County. You say, I'm from Whittier, or I'm from Fullerton, or something, right? That's not LA County, it's Orange County, but you get it. Same thing. They certainly don't say I'm from California unless they're talking about something. But they still have this identity of being Californian, right? So same way as Italians, there is a shared identity. And even if you are in these regions, you're Tuscan, or you're Veronese, or you're Roman, you would still be Italian. There is still a shared lineage and history, right? So compare that to the United States. The United States has a shared history and lineage. It has a shared history in the sense that the founders were all European Christians, every single last one of them. And I know that sounds offensive because to our sensibilities today, it's like, oh, how dare you say it? But just read a history book. That's what it was, right? So, I mean, if it wasn't that, tell me what else it would be. What would you consider the heritage and the history and the foundation demographically of the United States, the colonies? I mean, for God's sake, we're British colonies. Like, what else would it be? Suggest to me something. So, of course, that, what does he say here?
Us, meaning white, straight, or us. And in this clip, he's going to say that this nation is for us. And
so I don't know what he means by this nation is for us. We'll have to see the clip. But if your claim is conservatively and merely only the sense that this nation has a shared identity, and the fact that we came from one lineage, one stock, one history, of course, we adopted people along the way, then that's without objection. That is absolutely true. Now, the question, the thing that bothers people is whether it should stay that way, right? And so progressives, being progressive, wanting to go forward, they're wanting to say that, no, we should not keep that. And the thing about progressives, though, is they do that to a fault, right? They push it so radically that they push it to the extent that there is no shared identity anymore. We are so accepting, so accommodating of all these different peoples and all these different identities and histories and so on, that, well, what do you have at the end of the day? But we don't need a shared language. We don't need a shared, we need open borders. What do we do with our economy? We just build anywhere, everywhere. If you do that, if you accept everything, you accept nothing. If you become nothing, you have nothing in common anymore. I mean, that's literally what will happen. So again, not to come to this guy's defense, because I don't like neither of these guys, but I can see already I'm a bit of a charitable interpreter, and I've heard people make this. Of course, you're hearing it through the lens of whatever this guy Dollemore is saying. And I tend to be charitable when people are trying to construe something a certain way. So that's what made me think that. Now, I could be completely wrong, and this other guy, whatever his name is, Joel Webbon, he could be absolutely racist. But let's hear what he has to say.
Us, meaning white, straight, Christian men. And he lists a group of people who he does not want to see, does not believe are qualified to be elected to represent constituencies. He doesn't want them to have a place in public life. And it's not a shock. Those are Jews, Muslims, and Hindus. Then the second clip, it's another group that's not based on ethnicity or religion. He hates women too. First, watch him go after Jews and Hindus and Muslims.
Jews cannot hold public office. They can live here, and they can live here peacefully and all these kinds of things. But no, this is a Christian nation, and those who reject Christ and hate Christ, they can be in the car, and we shouldn't mistreat them, but they don't get to drive.
This is bizarre. And I know I stopped on his face during transition. Super weird, but this is such a bizarre take. Nobody in public government believes this way. And if they do, it's a radical. So this guy, Joel, look, this Dollemore guy, he has every right to be upset about this. This is pretty ridiculous. That Jews should not hold public office, that's pretty ridiculous. Again, it's a representational government. And so if you have, here in Baltimore, we have a little bit of an enclave up in Pikesville of Orthodox Jews. You have this all around the country, especially on the Eastern Seaboard, like in New York, in certain cities in DC and Boston. You have many, just the technical word is ghetto, but I know that now being something negative, but it's a little enclave of a demographic where they're predominantly Jewish or whatever demographic. So if your government is representational, that would stand to reason that you would want your representative from that area, from that region, to be Jewish because they have a say-so. What does this guy want to promote? And then that you would have a Christian telling the Jews what to do. I mean, that goes back to ancient Rome. That didn't go over nice, that you would have Romans, the colonizers, telling the Jews in Israel and the region surrounding what to do, right? Where to go, where to piss, who to pay, right? That's nonsense. You don't want to live in a government like that because, as with anything, if it happens, you do it to other people, it's going to be done to you later on once the regime changes. And the whole idea that America is a Christian nation, unfortunately, no. So no, absolutely not. It's not, unfortunately. Yes, it is predominantly Christian. That is the predominant. Statistically, most people in this country are Christian among religious beliefs. I know that the nuns are growing. That is, no religion affiliate. They're growing, but I still think the dominant religion, I wouldn't say that the majority, as in the sense of like 51%, but the most significant slice of the population let's say, even if it's like 27%, 30 something percent, I don't know what it is, but the largest number of people are certainly Christian of all stripes. Does that mean America's a Christian nation? Well, in some sense, yeah, that most people who have any religion are going to be Christian. But does it mean that absolutely it's a Christian nation? No, not at all. Not at all. We're not a theocracy. And of course, theocracies never worked because unless God comes down like he did in Exodus and tells his followers what to do and what to say, and here are the laws, like we don't have that these days. So unless you have that, it's just going to be people trying to tell other people what to do. And that's not a theocracy by definition. That is some other form of government, whether it be a monarchy or democracy or what have you. So it's certainly not a Christian nation in that sense.
Listen to me, Christian, you are allowed to have a country. You are. It is okay to say, no, that this country, this nation is for us and our posterity. It's not for Hindus. It's not for Muslims, and it's not for Jews. It belongs to Christians.
So, yeah, this is bizarre. Based on what I said earlier, it would stand to reason that you would want the form of government and history. I mean, let's not go start tearing down statues or anything. That would be crazy, right? Don't do that. People would never do that, right? Don't go start tearing down history and rewriting it and be revisionist about history and trying to make it into, oh, all these people contributed. Like we do this sometimes. We're like, Africans contributed after slavery or during the revolution. It's like, yes, they did. Absolutely, they did. But at what percentage? Yes, they get some say. Absolutely. Because we're a representative government. Absolutely. Right. And that's what I'm saying. We're not an absolute, Christian nation. So they get some say, but predominantly among all groups, we are mostly European. We're mostly majority white. Does that mean we all need to be white? No. I mean, that's a good analogy, right? It's because we are majority white. Does that mean that the whole country needs to be run by whites? No, that's ridiculous. Just because we're majority white, that we can only be white, that everybody has to be white. We got to have a little color change surgeries and everybody's got to be white, or only white people can be out loud in public. Only white people can make the laws. That's ridiculous. So why would you think that about any other group? Let's see what this other guy, Jesse, has to say.
This country is not for Jews or Hindus or Muslims. It is for Christians, he says. Oddly enough, and unfortunately enough for Pastor Joel Webbon, this is the Constitution of the United States of America, the very first amendment to which, from 1791, Joel, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Right. The last part's really important.
Will be no established religion of the United States, no official church.
Absolutely, because the founders and the framers of the Constitution knew the dangers of this, knew the abuses that were already occurring in Europe. Again, that's where we came from. They were already occurring in Europe in the late 1700s. People they had been being murdered and ostracized from their families, and their, if not ostracized or exiled, they would be driven out, right? And there'd be a lot of bloodshed because you didn't believe in one religion or another. In fact, a major reason that the Pilgrims came to America was for religious freedom, because they weren't being allowed to practice freely in their place of origin. So they had to come here. Where was their place of origin? Again, it was, for the Pilgrims, it was Great Britain. So this is supporting both sides and not supporting either of these guys, in the sense that, yes, we should not believe in just there's only one religion, because there are abuses that can happen. That's absolutely against whatever this Joel guy is. They need different names, honestly, Joel and Jesse. So Joel is wrong. No, and Jesse is right in this sense, because Congress should not make any law respecting any religion whatsoever because they were abuses. But Joel, the guy he's excerpting here, Joel is in some way right, although he's not explicitly saying this. He's in some way right because that is our heritage. And I don't think Jesse would like hearing that, but that's true. That is our heritage. Where did the Pilgrims come from? Where did the founders come from? Everybody came from, if not Great Britain in particular, they came from Europe in general.
No official doctrine, certainly, and yours is afoul of both your stated faith, Christianity, the words and the philosophies of Jesus Christ. And this is the problem here, is that Joel would have you believe that Jesus, the Christ, was a hateful bigot like him. If Islam was around at the time of Jesus, it was not
trying to say that
for hundreds of years. But Joel
I said, I don't think Joel would try to say that, because here's the thing. Joel is so off target with his exploratory comments here, his speculations, not this guy sitting in front of me, that's Jesse, but Joel, the other guy, he's exerting. Joel is so being speculative and exploratory in his comments that he's not even thinking about Jesus at all. He's not thinking about the New Testament. He's not thinking about Christianity proper as religion proper. He is thinking about his country and this intertwined, this dangerous entanglement of religion and politics is what you have here with this guy, Joel, who's criticized.
But have you believed that Jesus hated them?
And again, that's not true, because again, Joel's not thinking at all about Jesus. He's thinking about for himself what he would like his country right now to be. So he's not saying anything about Jesus. In fact, here Jesse is putting words into Joel's mouth. He's not saying anything like this whatsoever. And I don't think it's implied by what he's saying either, because you can be, again, I think that this guy Joel is way more radical than he should be, as you've heard me say. But yeah, let's just keep going.
Joel would have you believe that Jesus himself was a Christian and not a Jew. If Jesus were to come back today, a Jew, he would not be qualified under the rules that Joel Webbon would like to impose upon the rest of us. And
that's a nice little gotcha moment. Jesus was a Jew, not a Christian. Critics of Christianity like to pull this out as like a trump card and the gotcha moment that Jesus was a Jew, not a Christian. They neglect to remember, they omit together entirely, that Jesus, while adhering to old Jewish law, and while he did have some education as a rabbi, and he did have a following where they did call him teacher, rabbi, right? He also very clearly went not directly against the teaching practice, but he was carving out his own way. His followers are called the way, right? That his following was called the way. And so much so that the Jewish leaders did not like this, and they put down his little rebellious sect of Judaism. So Jewish, sure, in lineage and in history, but entirely purely Jewish in thought. Well, Jewish in its roots, absolutely. Was a Jewish sect? Yes, absolutely. But to say that Christ did not establish Christianity as a heretofore unknown religion, to deny that would be ridiculous. Of course, Christ established Christianity.
That is where the rub is here. That's the problem. That's the danger, is that these people don't want to just have the free exercise thereof in the First Amendment that I just read. They want to impose their particular flavor of Christianity on all of us, whether you're a Christian or not. And therein lies the danger. But it's not just other religions. Here he is saying the same things, except he takes it further in a more Taliban flavor of Christianity, that women, he doesn't want them in the public sphere at all. He doesn't want to have them jobs. He doesn't want them in the pulpit. He doesn't want them being elected officials. He doesn't want them to have the right
Let's hear what
to
he
vote.
has to say.
He's talked about that many times in the past. Here's that.
In a nutshell, in general, I don't want to see women in the public sphere. You mean
Wow.
they shouldn't hold political office? Correct. You mean You don't want to see them podcasting? Correct.
Wow.
But what about
So just turn off the podcast, dude. Just you don't have to watch them.
about in the marketplace, with 9 to 5, careers? No, not that either. Like, I don't want to see women holding positions in the public square. I don't.
Lucky for us, this dipshit, this hateful, bigoted freak isn't in charge. And what he
So I mean that's a little bit extreme. It's about both these guys are extreme. This is what makes for entertaining TV, honestly, or entertaining clickbait crap. This newsworthy kind of, culture wars bullcrap. This is the reason why I hesitate to ever cover clips like these ever, because it's just so bad. This guy's being extreme. The guy we just saw is being extreme. Nobody has the right handle on these things. And so yes, this guy, Joel, is being extreme by saying women shouldn't be allowed anywhere whatsoever. What do you think they should do then? You're an idiot. But to call him, hateful, bigoted, whatever he called the curse words there, that's also extreme. I know I just called an idiot, but idiot literally means, as in the sense of idiosyncratic, it means that you are one of a kind. So it's a nice way to put it. You're one of a kind. Nobody else thinks like you. And that should draw great danger. You probably in the wrong if nobody else thinks like not just the crowd, the masses don't think like you, and you've got it right. I mean, sometimes, but nobody else thinks like you. If that's how you're doing this is a great cause for concern here. So let this be just a final caution against watching just junk food type material. You watch that all the time, you're going to get dragged along with it, and you're going to see people getting called names and this or that, and you're going to be led down a hole of extremism and radicalism in your ideas, because that's literally, hate to break it to you, but that's what gets the clicks. That's what sells. They say sex sells. This is what sells on YouTube. You can't have sex and sexuality. You can't have some, but you can't have nudity and swear. But this is what sells on YouTube, is radical ideas. This is why, while I'm trying to grow my channel with a sense of balance, a sense of reasonableness, it's growing, but it's growing very slowly, yet steadily. And because I'm not giving in to this, just take the junk food, get the clickbaits, do the bait and switch in your thumbnail and get people to click, but then they don't stay. All of that is just junk. It's junk. It's total junk. So be careful out there. Go with a buddy. Use the buddy system. In fact, let tradition be your buddy. Don't just forego that altogether. Because tradition, again, those are the standing of the shoulders of giants that we do, and we're able to look ahead and look backwards and see all the things that we can't see and that we'd likely miss if we're trying to just look out on. So you go with those things, have a great partner, have a great buddy, have a great teacher, and hopefully I'm being a great teacher to you. Take care.
Of course, if you're not subscribed, let this be a reminder from my wife to make sure you subscribe. And I look forward to hearing from you next time. Take care.